Welcome back, and in the last video, just a little recap, what we did is we styled these top cards right there, looking beautiful. And in this video, what we'll do is just continue chugging along, going down, styling one of these components at a time. So the next one up is the connection status. And just a little refresher of what this is going to be. For this component, what we'll have is a little like indicator light, or pretty much just an icon. And then we'll have some text on the right hand side depending on the state of this connection. So that's it. Should be a nice easy component. So let me pop this open in connection status, component, and styles file. All right, so the first thing I want to do is actually bump this down a little bit more. It looked a little too close to those top cards. And we're gonna have two different elements in here. So just go ahead and display flex. They're going to be in a row by default, and for alignment, those can be center aligned with one another. And the first thing that we want to do is actually add that icon. And to add that icon, it's pretty much the exact same as the pencil icon. So we can just kind of steal some of this from spaced items. So to import the exact icon path, we will do MDI circle. All right, that looks good. And then for this icon styling, I really hate to type this out, so I copy whenever I can. All right, so we'll copy this, and then I believe that's all we need to steal from the time being. So we'll call this component icon as well. And all right, so how do we want to style this? Well, for the color, this is actually a pretty neat feature. So I'm just going to hard code this greenish color in right now. However, what I'm going to show you in sometime in the future is that whenever we pass props into our component right here, and actually let me just finish styling this. It'll be easier to explain. So s.icon, and just like before, our path is this path, which is just going to be a circle. And for the size of this, let's just say 14 pixels. Okay, anyways, what I was saying is that you know how we can pass any props into our elements right here? Well, because these are styled components, they are actually components, meaning that if we have any state or props here and we want to pass them along to this component, then we can actually accept those props right in here, and we can not write logic, it's just some simple templating logic. But either way, based on what we pass into this component right here, we can update the color to be like red or green or gray or whatever we want. So it isn't just we have these components and we can override some styles and it's just strict CSS. It does have some pretty cool logic that we're going to be digging into in just a bit. But anyways, now that I said that, I'll give you a little teaser of what's to come. To the right hand side of this, let me zoom in a little bit. I want a little bit of space right here between the icon and the text. So we'll go with 8 pixels right now. So margin right, 8 pixels. And now aside from that, we also want some, we'll just call it text. So export const the text. And for the text styling, let's just use this color, and we'll say 13 pixels. See how that looks. All right, I believe that's it. So icon on the left, text on the right, and we'll just hard code in connected right now. All right, so nice and simple, just what we're going for. And now that that is taken care of, let's go ahead and style this main button. So let me close all these and open main button component and styles. All right, so for the main button, it's gonna be pretty simple. Basically just a huge circle, and then we'll put some text on the inside, and maybe we'll add some cool hover properties to spice it up a little bit. But for the text, I actually want to say go. Maybe start, but we can always change that later on. I gotta, kind of get a feel for things once this is live up in action. All right, so it's gonna say go in the center, and let's see, for the margin top, let me bring this down a little bit. All right, so let's, and by the way, for this element, main button, we don't need to add like any button element or any more divs. We can just style this container straight up, since it's, like I said, just a big circle. So to give that round appearance, we'll do border radius 50%. And let me actually display this as flex, because just like this university app, we want just this text right here to float inside the middle of this entire container. So to do that, we'll say display flex, and we'll say align item center, and also justify content center. All right, so aside from this, let me think. Let's go ahead and give it a width of 40%. And then I'm also gonna include another property called aspect ratio, and I'm gonna do 1:1. And what this does is it ensures that the height of this element matches the width. Now without a border, this is all gonna be a little bit hard to see, but before we add a border, I just wanna go ahead and add a color. And then for the border itself, let's do 1 pixel solid, and then we'll just borrow this color as well. All right, so let's see how things are looking so far. This is interesting. So, okay, well, I guess we got a couple things we have to work on, but I actually never knew this before. And it appears that the aspect ratio is working up to a certain point, in the sense that the width of this is indeed 40%, and that the height of this is also kind of tracking along with that. However, what's happening, it looks like, is once we get to a certain point here, it doesn't have enough vertical space to maintain that same 1:1 aspect ratio, just because it has more horizontal space than vertical space is available. So what I'm thinking is that maybe we can just hard code value in. So let's say the width for now, and if anyone has an elegant solution to this, then leave a comment below, let me know. But let's say, let me just throw something in there for now. So width is 200 pixels. I think we're gonna come across the same problem. Yeah. Oh, what to do. Actually, let me do this. So we'll keep this logic for now, and we'll leave it up to the community to figure out an elegant solution to the go button problem, the infamous go button problem. And like I said, we have some fine tuning to do in terms of responsiveness anyways, but what we'll do is we'll save that for the very end, because I already know whenever I include the empty state element here, for example, that it's going to be a different height than these, and I'm going to have to figure out that responsive issue. And we'll do the button if no one from the community has anything. Then I'll figure out a solution, and then these cards, probably just stack them on top of each other. But all this fine tuning can wait until a little bit later. It'll be better, then we'll have live data anyways. All right, so let's see what else. We can probably bump up the font. So let's do font size 36 pixels. And for font weight, I wanna make this a little bit thinner than usual. Let's see how this is looking. All right, pretty good, pretty good. All right, pretty cool. And then let's see what else. Of course, we can add in our hover state. So just like before, for the hover property, what we want to do is we want to have this background color, and we're going to use RGBA rather than hex, because I want to tap into this opacity value all in one shebang as well. And for the color of this, actually, can we just keep this color the same? we'll just keep the text color the same unless it looks weird. But the last thing I want to do is I want to have cursor as a pointer. And let's see how this is looking. All right, not bad, not bad. The only other thing I would say is if we could add a nice little transition. And for this, we'll say transition on 0.2 seconds. And we'll see how this feels. Oh yeah, much better. Maybe even bring this down to 200. Let's see. I think I like 200 better than 3. All right, 300, sticking with it. So we got some responsive issues, but we'll save that for later on when we make all these responsive related tweaks. For now, we can move on to the timer, and let me pull up what I got right here. So the timer is just gonna say whenever we have a request pending and we're waiting for a response, it'll just like live update. And another thing that I'm thinking now that I'm looking at this is we probably want to have the numbers on top and maybe this seconds right under here in like a lighter, smaller font. So I think that'll look pretty good. So let's close all these and go to our timer component. And all right, so the timer, let me see the spacing too. Maybe bump it down from this button a bit. So for the margin top, let's go 24 pixels. And since we are gonna have 2 elements stacked on top of each other, what we can do is display this as flex and flex direction column. Clean this up, and then we'll say align items center so that they look nice and aligned. And then we are going to have 2 divs, one for the top text and one for the bottom text. All right, so for the top text, let me steal one of these colors. And for the, again, the top text is going to be the numbers or the countdown. So we want this font kind of big. So let's go with 28 pixels. And for the font weight, let's go with 200. And the reason we don't want it too bold is because we don't want this to outshine the Go text right there. So that should be good for the top text. Now, steal this for the bottom text, which is the seconds counter. And for this, we use a more subtle color. And of course, the font size is going to be quite a bit smaller. We'll go with 12 and just bump it down a bit. So margin top, let's go 2 pixels. All right. So in this container, instead of timer, we have S top text. And then under here, bottom text. This is going to say seconds, and for some sample, 1.2345. All right, looks not aligned. The justify content, I always get justify content. All right, align item center, justify content center. Wait a minute. Why isn't this aligning? That's because I have align content instead of align items. It's so embarrassing. Align items, there we go. Hopefully that fixed it. Beautiful. Okay, and now I think we should be good on this. So now on to history. All right, so for the history section, what we'll have is a header, and then we'll just have a table with 4 columns. And even though I didn't show it here, we'll also have a table header just to kind of label these columns. So on that note, what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to write everything in HTML, and then we'll go and make these styled components. So we'll make this actual heading, which we probably should have done for the other headings, but either way, after this, we're going to have a table, and the table is going to have T head and then T body. All right, so 4 columns. And let me just copy this. All right, so the columns are going to be accounts, network, date, and the speed, which is going to be like 0.15 seconds or whatever. And then for the table body, we actually need table rows. And then each of these rows, actually, let me just create one, then I'll just copy it. All right, so for a sample account, let me get some data that I already have on the right. All right, so we'll have a snippet kind of like we do for this chat app, where we don't want to display the full account number because it's, well, really it's just kind of long. So we'll truncate it, and I don't know exactly how long we're gonna have to truncate it, but we'll just include these characters for now. And then the network, we'll use the shorthand. And then the date, we'll actually create a utility function to format our dates properly, because the standard that I'm going for is internally in TNBOS, like whenever we send messages or whenever we are gonna log any of these tests, then the date is always stored is a UTC datetime object. However, since we have that standard, we can just create utility functions to display them like shorthand or longerhand with the time included, or maybe we want to write out the days, like days of the week, like Monday is MON. However we want to do it, we'll decide that later. For right now, we'll just put a sample date in. And then for the speed, I'll put like 1.2345 seconds. All right, so let me just make sure that this is, all right, looking good. Nothing breaking. It looks pretty ugly right now, but just want to get some sample data in there. And I'll just create this other row. All right, so now that we got that taken care of, let's go ahead and start replacing these with styled components. And for this container, let me check this out. All right, margin top. Actually, let's spread this. You see how in this top section right here that I had width 100 and it kind of just forces everything to butt up right against the edge? I want to do the same with this history table since, well, I just think it's going to need that full width. So in this container, I'm going to do width 100%, and then I'll just call the heading. So export const heading, set this equal to styled h1. All right, so this heading, we can have this color right here. And for the font size, let's try 15 pixels. For font weight, I want it a little bit more bold, so let's go with 700. And for the margin, I believe that headings have margin by default. So I want all margins to 0, aside from the bottom margin, which is going to be, we'll say 8 pixels, see how that looks. So 0, 0 for the right, 8 pixels for the bottom, and 0 for the left. And then since we have this, we can just replace this H1 with our styled heading. And then we can take a peek at our heading and see how it looks. All right, it's looking pretty good actually. Okay, next up, let me give us some more room right here. All right, so next up, let's go ahead and style this table. Export const. All right, so the table, I also want to have a width of 100%. And aside from this, another property I know I need to add is border collapse. And we'll just set this equal to collapse. And this just is going to ensure that whenever we style our cells, there isn't like this 1 pixel or a few pixel border in between each one. So if you're ever like trying to style a cell and you're like margin 0, padding 0, and you still get this little space between them, it's kind of annoying. This is the property you're probably looking for. And for the font size on this table, we'll just go with 13 pixels. And now, oh, forgot, didn't even do this yet. So s.table, get this one too, and then that should, all right, looking good. Now, a couple different things I want to do. First of all, I want to left line these, and I also just want to give a slightly different styling from these the table heading from these table cells in these rows right here. So let me go ahead and do that next. So actually, let me go ahead and make this the TDs and THs, and then I'll add some consistent cell styling to both of those, and then add some additional styling to the table heads. So export const, we'll just say TD equal to style.td, and we can do the same for these table headings. And just to make sure that we are kind of seeing everything live. All right, so these THs can be replaced with s.th. Can probably just do find and replace, easier than that, but these right here can be replaced with TDs, our own custom TD, way better than these other HTML TDs. And all right, so now just make sure nothing's breaking. Shouldn't change those since we didn't apply any styling yet. And okay, what do I want to do? So for the table heading, I want to make these a little bit more bold and left align them. So we'll say font weight is 600, and we'll say text align is equal to left. All right, looking better. And now the only thing that I want to do is actually apply some standardized styling to all of these cells, whether they're cell in the table row or table heading. So on that note, what I'm going to do is this. I'll use a mix-in. I'll show you guys how to use this. So I want to basically write a snippet of CSS, and I'm going to be applying it in a few different elements right here. So what I can do is just rewrite the same thing over and over. But since I know that if I update it in one place, I'm just gonna need to update it in the other, I'm gonna make a constant for that. And I usually don't like to include the word styling in the style since, I don't know, something just feels weird about it. However, in this case, the word cell styling, or using this as a constant, it just feels pretty intuitive. So anyways, what I'm gonna do for all of these table cells is I'm gonna add a border on the bottom and then just give it some padding, since I think this looks just a little bit squished together. So all of these cells are gonna have a border bottom, and I'll just say 1 pixel solid. Let me get a color from over here. All right, this light gray right here. And for the padding, I'll say 8 pixels and 12 pixels left and right. So 8 pixels top and bottom, 12 pixels to the left and the right. And now to apply this mix-in to these different areas right here, what we can do is use that templating language, and that is $, in those curly brackets. Now anything inside here is pretty much just going to be treated as JavaScript within the styled components. So self-styling right there. And I also want to apply this to the table headers as well. So self-styling, just like that. Now let's just make sure that those are applied. Beautiful. And okay, I also want to, yeah. So this is looking good, but hold on, there's like a motorcycle outside. I want to take the very first column and very last column. And for the very first one, I want to remove the left padding just so it's left aligned with this history word. And for the right column, even though it's going to be hard to see right now, if we ever have long text, it's going to have this extra space on the right hand side that I don't want. So I'll just go ahead and make another one of these. Actually, I don't need to. Okay, I am pretty lazy. So for this, I'll just call it edge padding. And of course, these are not the properties we want. What we want to do is we're going to be applying these to the table data and table headings as well. Basically all the cells, and what I'll say is the first child, which is going to refer to the first cell, or in other words, basically the first column, and then the last child, which is these last cells right here, and that's how I'm going to kind of select those elements. So I'll say first child of each of these things that I'm going to apply to. I'm going to have the padding left be 0. And then you can probably guess what I'm going to do next. And that is for the last child. I'm gonna have the padding right be 0. And then I just need to, just like I applied the cell styling to both of those, I can apply this edge padding as well. So there we go. And now the first child in each of these, which is just the first cell, has no left padding. And if you saw, the rightmost cell also had a little bit padding removed. We still have some space right here because they aren't right aligned, but I don't know if that'll look weird. Another thing that I'm thinking is I don't like how this seconds keyword is kind of repetitive. However, what we can do is something like this. All right, we can remove it from each of the table rows and just have it here in the table header. That looks kind of weird too. Maybe if I shorten that to S. That looks kind of weird too, because even though it doesn't take up as much space, whenever I'm reading this, I'm reading the word speed with the optional S at the end. So speed or speeds, you know, I don't know. Okay, so UX is not my strong suit. If anyone has any suggestions, let me know. But for the time being, even though I'm really not digging this repetitive seconds in every single value right here. Okay, nothing else look good, but if any UI or UX pros are out there, then let me know what to do about this little issue as well. But for the time being, aside from those responsive issues that we already know that we're gonna have to fix, then actually, let's see how this looks when I squish it down. Wow, this go button right here is not the proudest UI element I've ever designed. Let's say this. This go oval. All right, but you know, overall not bad. I mean, compared to this thing that we were going off of, then I have to say that this is indeed an improvement. So on that note, now that we have the basic styling taken care of, I'll go ahead and push up these changes. And for the next video, I actually don't even have it planned out yet. Maybe we'll be getting into the Redux store structure. Who knows? Yeah, even though I don't know what it's going to be about, I can promise you that it's going to be amazing. Probably the greatest video ever made. Not to, you know, hype it up, but it's going to be pretty dope. So anyways, thanks for sticking along, and I'll see you next time.